The battlefield was supposed to be empty by now. Smoke drifted low across the shattered ground, mixing with dust and the metallic scent of spent weapons. The war had moved on hours ago, leaving behind only silence, broken machines, and the kind of stillness that made even hardened soldiers uneasy. Sergeant Marcus Hale walked slowly through the ruins, his rifle slung over his shoulder, boots crunching over debris with every step. He wasn't supposed to be here. His unit had already regrouped miles away, preparing for the next push. But Marcus had always been the kind of man who looked back when others kept moving forward, and sometimes that made all the difference. Sweep complete. His comm crackled faintly, the voice of command distant and distracted. All surviving personnel accounted for. Marcus glanced around at the wreckage. Yeah, he muttered under his breath. Not all. He didn't know what had pulled him back here. Maybe it was instinct. Maybe it was guilt. Or maybe it was the faint, almost imperceptible sound that carried through the wind. A low, strained noise that didn't belong to machines or men. He froze, listening. There it was again. Weak, barely there, but alive. Marcus tightened his grip on his rifle, turning toward the source. The sound came from beyond a collapsed structure. A once massive transport carrier now reduced to twisted metal and fractured plating. He moved carefully, stepping over broken beams and scorched earth, every sense alert. Probably just a wounded animal, he told himself quietly. Or something worse. Still, he didn't stop. As he reached the wreckage, the smell hit him first. Burned metal mixed with something sharper, almost primal. Then he heard it again. A low, pained growl. Marcus stepped around the final piece of debris and froze. It lay there, partially buried under the collapsed frame of the carrier, its massive body barely visible beneath layers of metal. At first glance, it looked like a lion, but no lion he had ever seen. Its fur shimmered faintly with an unnatural sheen, streaked with deep gold and ember-like patterns that glowed dimly beneath the surface. Its mane was thick and wild, but singed in places, as if it had been caught in fire. And its eyes, half open, clouded with pain, burned with a faint, dying light. What the... Marcus whispered. The creature was enormous, easily twice the size of a normal lion. Its claws long and curved, its body built with a strength that even now, in its broken state, was unmistakable. But it wasn't the size or the power that struck him most. It was the restraint, the chains. Thick, reinforced restraints wrapped tightly around its limbs, embedded into its flesh in places, holding it in place even as the wreckage pinned it down. Marcus's expression darkened. You weren't wild, he said quietly. You were owned. The lion let out another weak growl, its head shifting slightly as it noticed him. Its eyes locked onto his, and for a moment the battlefield disappeared. There was no war, no mission, just two living beings staring at each other in the aftermath of destruction. Marcus slowly raised his hands, keeping his movements deliberate. Easy, he said softly. I'm not here to hurt you. The lion's lips curled slightly, revealing massive fangs, but the movement lacked strength. It wasn't a threat. It was instinct, pain. Marcus crouched slightly, studying the wreckage more carefully. The metal beam across the lion's body wasn't just heavy. It was crushing. One wrong move and it would collapse further, likely killing the creature instantly. Damn it, Marcus muttered. He glanced around. No backup, no tools, no time. He keyed his calm command. This is Hale, he said. I've got a survivor at grid. He stopped. The words caught in his throat as he looked back at the lion. Not a survivor. Not to them. Correction, he said slowly. Non-human life form. Severely injured. There was a pause. Then, negative Hale, command replied immediately. All non-essential assets are to be abandoned. Repeat, abandoned. Return to your unit. Marcus clenched his jaw. It's alive, he said. Barely. If I leave, that is not your concern. The voice cut in sharply. We do not have the resources for rescue operations, especially not for enemy assets. Enemy asset. Marcus looked at the chains again. at the way they dug into flesh, at the way the lion struggled just to breathe. "Copy that," he said quietly. But he didn't move. The calm went silent. For a long moment, Marcus just stood there, staring at the creature. Then he let out a slow breath and set his rifle aside. "Yeah," he said softly. "That's not happening." The lion watched him closely now, its breathing shallow, its strength fading. Marcus stepped closer, carefully navigating the debris until he stood beside the massive beam pinning the creature down. "This is gonna hurt," he said. "For both of us." He braced himself, gripping the edge of the metal with both hands. The weight was immense, far beyond what he should have been able to lift alone. But Marcus didn't hesitate. He pushed. The beam shifted slightly. The lion let out a low, pained roar, its body tensing as the pressure changed. "I know," Marcus gritted through his teeth. "I know, just hold on." He pushed harder, muscles straining, every fiber of his body screaming in protest. The beam lifted just enough for the lion to move. "Now!" Marcus shouted. The lion responded not with hesitation, but with instinct. With effort that bordered on impossible, it twisted its body, dragging itself free from beneath the wreckage. The moment it cleared, Marcus let go, stumbling back as the beam crashed down again with a heavy impact. He hit the ground hard, breathing heavily, vision blurring for a second. When he looked up, the lion was free, but not safe. It collapsed almost immediately, its massive body hitting the ground with a dull thud, too weak to stand. Marcus pushed himself up, ignoring the pain in his arms as he moved closer again. "Hey," he said quietly, "stay with me." The lion's eyes flickered, focusing on him again. There was no aggression now, no resistance, just exhaustion, and something else, something he didn't expect. "Trust." Marcus exhaled slowly. "Yeah," he murmured. "I'm not leaving you." He reached for the chains, examining them quickly. Reinforced alloy, military grade, locked tight. He pulled out his combat knife, wedging it into one of the mechanisms. "Let's fix that." The lion didn't move as he worked, only watching him with those dim, glowing eyes. Minutes passed. Sweat dripped down Marcus's face as he forced the blade deeper, prying at the locking system. Finally, with a sharp crack, one of the restraints snapped open. The lion flinched slightly, its body relaxing just a fraction. "One down," Marcus said. "Couple more to go." He kept going, working through each restraint with stubborn determination. One by one, they broke. One by one, the lion was freed. When the last chain fell away, Marcus sat back, breathing heavily. "There," he said. "You're free." The lion didn't move at first. Then, slowly, painfully, it lifted its head. Its eyes met his again. And this time, they were different. Brighter, stronger, alive. Marcus gave a small, tired smile. "Yeah," he said softly. "Guess we're both still here." He didn't know it yet, but that single choice, made in the silence of a forgotten battlefield, would change everything. Not just for him, not just for the creature he had saved, but for an entire world that had no idea what had just been set in motion. The silence after the last chain snapped felt heavier than the battlefield itself, as if something unseen had shifted the moment the creature was truly free. Marcus sat there for a few seconds, catching his breath, his arms trembling from the strain, his body reminding him just how close he had come to his limit. But he didn't focus on himself for long. His eyes stayed on the massive lion in front of him. Free now, but still dangerously close to death. "All right," Marcus muttered under his breath, forcing himself back to his feet. "Freedom's one thing. Surviving is another." The lion's breathing was uneven, its chest rising and falling with visible effort. Without the chains, the full extent of its injuries became clearer. Deep cuts ran across its body, some partially burned as if exposed to intense heat or energy blasts. One of its legs was twisted at an unnatural angle, and its mane, once majestic, was scorched in patches, the golden strands dulled with ash and blood. Marcus exhaled slowly. "Yeah, you're not walking this off." The lion's eyes followed him as he moved, still alert despite its condition. There was no aggression now, but there was awareness, intelligence. It understood more than a normal animal should. That much was clear. "Don't suppose you've got a medical kit hidden somewhere, huh?" Marcus said dryly. The lion blinked slowly. Marcus almost laughed. "Yeah. Didn't think so." He glanced around quickly, scanning the wreckage. The battlefield might have been abandoned, but not everything would have been taken. Supplies got left behind all the time, especially in a retreat this chaotic. "Stay here," he said, before pausing and shaking his head. "Right, not like you've got much choice." He grabbed his rifle again and moved quickly through the debris, keeping his eyes open for anything useful. Minutes stretched, each one feeling longer than the last. Twice he thought he heard distant movement. Ships far above, scanning, searching, but nothing came close. Still, the urgency pressed against him. Whoever had owned this creature, whoever had chained it, they might come back. And if they did, they wouldn't be gentle. Finally, Marcus found something. A partially crushed supply crate wedged beneath a broken support beam. He pried it open with effort, his heart lifting slightly as he saw the contents. Field med supplies. Not much, but enough. "Lucky day," he muttered, grabbing what he could. When he returned, the lion hadn't moved much, but its eyes immediately locked onto him again. Watching, waiting. Marcus crouched beside it, setting the supplies down. "This is where things get uncomfortable," he said. "For you especially." He opened the kit, pulling out a spray sealant and a bundle of sterile wraps. "I'm not a medic," he added. "So, bear with me." The lion let out a low, quiet rumble. Not threatening, just aware. Marcus hesitated for a second, then reached out carefully toward one of the deeper wounds along its side. The moment his hand got close, the lion tensed, a faint growl rising instinctively. Marcus froze. "Hey," he said softly. "I get it. But if I don't do this, you're not making it." The lion's glowing eyes held his. The tension lingered for a long moment. Then slowly it relaxed. Just enough. Marcus nodded once. "Good call." He worked quickly but carefully, cleaning and sealing the worst of the wounds. Each time the spray touched raw flesh, the lion flinched, its body tightening, but it didn't lash out. It endured. And that told Marcus everything he needed to know. This wasn't just some wild beast. This was something trained, or something that understood restraint on a deeper level. "You've been through a lot, haven't you?" he murmured as he worked. No response, at least not one he expected. But as he wrapped another injury, the lion's tail shifted slightly, brushing against the ground in a slow, deliberate motion. Marcus noticed. "Yeah," he said quietly. "Figured." When he reached the injured leg, he paused. This was the worst of it. "This one's gonna be rough," he admitted. He gently examined it, his jaw tightening. "Not broken completely, but close. If it heals wrong, you won't be running anywhere." The lion's breathing grew heavier as he touched the limb, pain evident in every movement. Marcus looked up at it again. "I'm gonna have to set it," he said. "You're not gonna like it." The lion's eyes didn't leave his. There was no fear there now, just focus. Marcus nodded slowly. "All right, here we go." He braced the leg as best he could, using the limited supplies to create a makeshift splint. Then, with one quick, controlled movement, he adjusted it. The lion roared. Not weak, not small. It echoed across the battlefield, raw and powerful despite its injuries. Marcus held firm, gritting his teeth. "I know," he shouted. "I know. Just hold on." The lion's claws dug into the ground. Its entire body tensed with pain, but it didn't strike him. It didn't fight him. And after a few long seconds, the roar faded into heavy breathing. Marcus secured the splint quickly, finishing the wrap before stepping back. "There," he said, breathing hard. "That should help." The lion lay still for a moment, its chest rising and falling rapidly. Then, slowly, it turned its head toward him again. Their eyes met, and this time, there was something new. Not just trust, not just understanding. Gratitude. Marcus let out a small breath, tension easing from his shoulders. "Yeah," he said quietly. "We're even now." A faint sound broke the moment. A distant rumble, low but growing. Marcus's head snapped up. "No," he muttered. He moved quickly to a higher piece of wreckage, climbing just enough to get a better view of the sky. And there they were. Dropships. Multiple. Descending. His expression darkened immediately. They came back. He slid back down, grabbing his rifle. "All right," he said, moving toward the lion again. Change of plans. The lion watched him, its body still too weak to stand, but its eyes sharp now, alert. Marcus crouched beside it, thinking fast. "You can't move. Not fast enough. And I can't carry you." He clenched his jaw. "But I'm not leaving you here again." The dropships grew louder, the wind shifting as they approached. Time was gone. Marcus looked at the lion one more time. Then he made a decision. He slung his rifle across his back and reached down, placing a firm hand against the lion's side. "Listen," he said, his voice steady despite the urgency. "I don't know what you are exactly, but you're not dying here. Not today." The lion's eyes flared faintly, just for a second. Marcus felt it again. That warmth, that strange, subtle energy. Not as strong as before, but there. Real. He froze. "You feel that too, don't you?" he whispered. The lion didn't move, but the connection lingered, faint but undeniable. Marcus swallowed hard. "All right," he said. "Then we're doing this together." He stood, pulling his rifle forward, positioning himself between the lion and the approaching dropships. The engines roared overhead now, shadows sweeping across the battlefield as the first ship descended. Soldiers would come next, armed, organized, ready to reclaim what they thought belonged to them. Marcus adjusted his stance, his grip steady. "Guess I'm going against orders again," he muttered. Behind him, the lion shifted slightly, a low growl building. Not of fear, but of something deeper, something rising. Marcus didn't look back. He didn't need to. "Yeah," he said quietly. "Let's see how this plays out." Because this time, he wasn't just a soldier following commands. He was something else. Someone who had made a choice. And that choice was about to be tested. The first dropship touched down with a thunderous impact, its engines kicking up clouds of ash and dust that rolled across the battlefield like a storm. Marcus didn't move from his position. He stood firm, rifle raised, his body the only thing between the approaching soldiers and the injured lion behind him. His heart pounded, but his mind was clear, sharper than it had been in a long time. This wasn't just another mission. This wasn't about orders anymore. This was personal. The ramp of the dropship lowered slowly with a metallic hiss, and a squad of heavily armed soldiers emerged, their armor marked with the same insignia Marcus had seen on the restraints that once bound the lion. Not his unit. Not allies. Something else entirely. Private contractors. Or worse, the kind of people who didn't leave survivors behind unless they were worth something. "Step away from the asset," one of them called out, his voice amplified through his helmet. "You are interfering with a retrieval operation." Marcus didn't lower his weapon. "Funny," he replied evenly. "Didn't see any retrieval happening earlier. Just abandonment." The soldiers spread out slightly, forming a loose perimeter as more began to exit the dropship. Marcus counted quickly, 8, 10 more still inside. Too many. "Final warning," the lead soldier said. "Stand down." Marcus tilted his head slightly, as if considering it. Then he shook it once. "Yeah, no." The tension snapped instantly. Weapons were raised. Targets locked. And in that split second before everything erupted, Marcus moved first. He fired a precise shot at the nearest soldier's weapon, knocking it off aim just as the return fire began. Energy bolts tore through the air, slamming into the wreckage around him, sparks and debris exploding in every direction. Marcus ducked behind a piece of twisted metal, using it as cover as he fired again, forcing the squad to spread out further. "Non-lethal if possible," he muttered to himself. No need to make this worse than it already is. But they weren't holding back. A blast struck close, sending a shockwave through the ground that nearly knocked him off balance. Okay, he grunted. Guess we're not doing this the easy way. Behind him, the lion let out a low, rising growl. Marcus felt it more than heard it, the vibration carrying through the ground, through the air, through him. He glanced back for just a second. The lion was trying to stand. Its injured leg trembled under the strain, its body shaking with effort, but it wasn't giving up. Easy, Marcus called out. You're not ready for that. The lion ignored him. It pushed harder, muscles tightening, claws digging into the dirt as it forced itself upright. Slowly, painfully, but undeniably standing. And when it did, something changed. The faint glow beneath its fur brightened, the ember-like patterns along its body igniting with a deeper, more intense light. The air around it shimmered slightly, heat rippling outward. Marcus's eyes widened. Oh, you've been holding back, he whispered. A sudden burst of fire streaked past him, slamming into the ground near the soldiers. Not a full attack, more like a warning shot. But it was enough. The squad faltered, their formation breaking as they reacted to the unexpected threat. The asset is active, one of them shouted. Contain it. Yeah, Marcus muttered, stepping back into the open. Good luck with that. He fired again, this time targeting their advance directly, forcing them to take cover. The battlefield erupted into chaos. Blasts, movement, shouted commands, it all blurred together. But Marcus wasn't overwhelmed. If anything, he felt focused, sharper than before, like something inside him had clicked into place. And then he felt it again. That warmth, that connection. It surged briefly as the lion roared. Louder this time, stronger, filled with something far beyond pain. Marcus staggered slightly, his vision flickering for a split second as something passed through his mind. Not images this time, but instinct. Awareness. He knew where they were going to move before they did. Knew which direction the next attack would come from. AI? That's not normal, he muttered. There was no response. His comm had been jammed. But he didn't need confirmation. He could feel it. He moved without hesitation, shifting position just before a blast struck where he had been standing moments earlier. Okay, he breathed. Now that's useful. The lion stepped forward beside him, still unsteady, but standing. Its presence alone changed the battlefield. Massive, powerful, alive. It let out another roar, this one carrying a force that seemed to push the air itself outward. The soldiers hesitated again, just for a second. But that second was enough. Stay behind me, Marcus said instinctively, though he wasn't sure who he was saying it to anymore. The lion didn't listen, but it didn't charge either. It stayed close, its glowing eyes locked on the enemy, its body radiating heat and restrained fury. Then the second dropship descended. Marcus's expression hardened immediately. Of course there's more. The new arrivals didn't hesitate. Heavier weapons, larger units. This wasn't a simple retrieval anymore. This was escalation. They're not taking chances, Marcus said. The lion growled again, lower this time, deeper. Marcus glanced at it and froze. The glow had spread, not just along its body but outward. Faint tendrils of light flickered in the air around it, like heat made visible. And for a brief moment, they reached him. Marcus felt it clearly this time. The connection wasn't just there, it was growing, strengthening. He looked down at his hand. For a split second, faint lines of golden light traced across his skin before fading again. No way, he whispered. The lion's head turned slightly toward him, as if it had sensed the same thing. Their eyes met, and something passed between them. Not words, not thoughts, understanding. Then the ground shook. A heavy unit stepped forward from the second dropship. A mechanized frame, towering above the soldiers, its weapons powering up with a deep, ominous hum. Marcus exhaled slowly. Yeah, that's a problem. The mech raised its arm, energy building rapidly. Stand down. Its pilot's voice boomed through external speakers. This is your final chance. Marcus adjusted his grip on his rifle, though he knew it wouldn't be enough. Not against that. Not alone. He glanced at the lion one more time. The glow around it intensified again, the heat rising, the air distorting. It was ready, not fully healed, not at full strength, but ready to fight. Marcus gave a small, determined nod. "All right," he said quietly. "Then we don't hold back either." The mech fired. A massive blast of energy tore through the battlefield. But this time, Marcus didn't move alone. As the attack came, the lion roared, and the golden light surged forward, meeting the blast head-on. The collision erupted in a shockwave that shook the ground, scattering debris in every direction. Marcus braced himself, shielding his eyes as the light flared blindingly bright. When it faded, the battlefield was changed. The mech had stepped back, its systems flickering from the impact. The soldiers hesitated again, this time not just cautious, but uncertain. And Marcus stood at the center of it all, the faint glow still lingering around him, his breath steady, his stance unbroken. He looked at the lion beside him, no longer just a creature he had saved, but something more, something connected. "Yeah," he said softly. "I think I get it now. This wasn't just survival. This wasn't just a rescue. This was a bond. And together, they weren't just fighting back. They were becoming something far more dangerous than anyone out there was ready for." The dust hadn't even settled from the last impact when everything changed again. The battlefield, already torn apart by fire and metal, now felt like it was holding its breath, waiting. Marcus stood firm, chest rising slowly, his rifle still in his hands, though he knew it wasn't what mattered anymore. The faint golden glow that had flickered across his skin moments ago had not fully disappeared. It lingered beneath the surface, like something waking up. Beside him, the lion stood taller now despite its injuries, its body no longer trembling the same way. The energy flowing through it was stronger, alive, focused, no longer just survival instinct but something purposeful. The mech unit ahead recalibrated, its massive frame shifting as systems stabilized after the unexpected clash. Its weapons powered up again, brighter this time, more dangerous. The soldiers regrouped behind it, forming a tighter formation, no longer underestimating what they were facing. Target confirmed as bonded anomaly. The mech pilot's voice echoed. Authorization upgraded. Terminate both. Marcus let out a slow breath. Yeah. Figured it would come to that. He adjusted his stance slightly, but this time he didn't raise his rifle immediately. Instead, his gaze shifted just briefly to the lion. The creature met his eyes, and in that moment, the connection between them surged. Not violently, but clearly, like two currents finally aligning into one steady flow. There was no fear now, no hesitation, only understanding. "We end this," Marcus said quietly. The lion didn't roar this time. It didn't need to. Its body lowered slightly, muscles coiling despite the injury, golden patterns blazing brighter than ever. The air around it shimmered intensely, heat radiating outward in waves that distorted everything beyond it. Marcus stepped forward at the same time. Not behind it, not in front of it, beside it, equal. The mech fired first. A concentrated beam of energy, stronger than the last, tore forward with destructive force meant to erase everything in its path. But this time they didn't just react. They moved together. The lion surged forward, faster than it should have been able to, its injured leg holding just long enough. At the same instant, Marcus moved with it, not following, not leading, but synced. The golden energy exploded outward, not just from the lion, but from both of them. It wasn't fire. It wasn't light. It was something deeper, something ancient. The beam collided with that energy and shattered. Not deflected, not absorbed, broken apart completely, dissipating into nothing. The shockwave that followed ripped across the battlefield, forcing the soldiers back, knocking several off their feet. The mech staggered, its systems glitching under the sudden overload. Energy output impossible. The pilot's voice stuttered through static. Marcus didn't stop. He pushed forward, the connection guiding him, his body moving faster, sharper than ever before. He didn't think, he knew. Every movement, every step, every shift in balance felt right. The lion moved with him, its presence massive and overwhelming, its power no longer restrained. Together, they closed the distance. The soldiers fired again, desperate now, uncoordinated. But none of the shots landed. Marcus moved through them like he could see the attacks before they happened, weaving between blasts, his path precise. The lion followed, its sheer presence forcing the line to break further. Then they reached the mech. Up close, it was even more imposing, towering, armored, built for war. But now, it wasn't untouchable. Marcus skidded to a stop just short of it, his eyes locking onto the glowing core at its center. "That's your weak point," he said under his breath. Not guessing, but knowing. The lion stepped forward beside him, its glow intensifying again, focusing. Not spreading outward this time, but concentrating. Marcus raised his hand instinctively. The golden energy surged again. But this time it didn't explode. It formed. A concentrated force, focused and directed. The mech fired one last time, but it was too late. "Now," Marcus said, and together they struck. The energy they released wasn't just powerful, it was precise. It cut through the mech's defenses like they weren't there, slamming directly into the core. For a single moment, everything froze. Then the mech collapsed. Not in a massive explosion, but in a controlled failure, its systems shutting down instantly as the energy within it was completely overwhelmed. It hit the ground with a heavy, lifeless crash. Silence followed. The soldiers didn't move. They didn't fire. They just stared. Marcus stood there, breathing hard, the golden glow fading slowly from around him. Beside him, the lion lowered its head slightly, its energy settling, its body finally showing the strain again now that the fight was over. One of the soldiers took a hesitant step back. Then another. "Fall back," someone said quietly. No one argued. No one tried again. One by one, they retreated, moving toward the dropships, their formation broken. Not by force alone, but by something they didn't understand. Something they couldn't fight. Within moments, they were gone. The dropships lifted off, disappearing into the sky, leaving the battlefield silent once more. Marcus stood there for a long time, watching them go. Only when the last trace of them vanished did he finally exhale fully, the tension leaving his body all at once. "Yeah," he muttered. "That went about as expected." He lowered his arm slowly, the last flickers of golden light fading completely. Then he turned. The lion was already lowering itself back to the ground, its strength finally giving out now that the danger had passed. Marcus moved quickly, kneeling beside it as it settled. "Hey," he said softly. "Easy. You did good." The lion let out a low, tired sound, its glowing eyes dimming slightly, but not like before. Not fading, just resting. Marcus smiled faintly, placing a hand gently against its side. The warmth was still there, but calmer now, stable. The connection hadn't disappeared. It had settled, become something permanent. "Guess we're stuck with each other," Marcus said quietly. The lion's tail moved slightly, brushing against the ground once. Marcus chuckled softly. "Yeah, I'll take that as a yes." He sat there for a moment, the battlefield around them finally still. Then he looked out toward the horizon, his expression shifting, more serious now. "They'll be back," he said. "And next time, they won't hold back." The lion didn't respond, but it didn't need to. Marcus could feel it. It already knew. He nodded once. "Good," he said, "because neither will we." He stood slowly, then looked down at the massive creature beside him, not as something he had saved, but as something that had chosen him just as much. "Let's get out of here," he said. And together they left the battlefield behind, not as soldier and beast, but as something far more dangerous. Something that had been created in a single moment of choice. A bond. One that would change not just their fate, but the fate of anyone who tried to stand against them.